Like, the flavor is just as good as the marketing is. Does that make sense?
Let's say, are you willing to admit that your products failed and do it again?
Not reinventing the wheel, which in a sense, they didn't. They went with the wheel and gave it a twist. Welcome to Create to Live podcast, the podcast where social media meets business and big dreams turn into bigger results.
Whether you're an entrepreneur, content creator, or a 9-to-5er, building your side hustle, you're in the right place.
Each week, we bring you actionable tips, inspiring stories, and insider strategies to help you grow your brand, monetize your passions, and create the success you seek. We are your hosts, Sherelle from Blue Wall Media
And Davon from Booker Consulting.
Together, let's create the life you want to live. Welcome, everyone, to episode 7 of Create to Live podcast. I'm your host, Sherelle.
What's up, everybody? J Book in the building. You know what I'm saying whole time. Good to see y'all today. Talking about Starry for real.
Started from the bottom. Now we're here.
I'm looking at their bottom. They really ain't had no long bottom.
Literally. Today we are talking about how to go from the bottom to the top, being inspired by actually the soda brand Starry. How they went from no one even knowing about them being in Fiesta stores, to now being in stadiums like the Toyota Center, just basically everywhere, having commercials during the Super Bowl.
It started from Fiesta, but very interesting. January 1st, 2023, they came into the game for real. But I remember seeing them at games. I'm like, what is Starry? But they all in stadiums and they got partnerships, so they doing something. The first year they was a sponsor, the 3-point contest.
So you said that Starry is owned by Pepsi, correct? And what is 7-Up owned by? 7-Up and Mountain Dew, are those owned by 7-Up by Pepsi as well? Let me see. 7-Up. 7-Up is parent companies is Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, and Keurig. And then Mountain Dew is also owned by Pepsi. So it's very interesting to see that Pepsi made basically a whole new Sprite, whole new 7-Up, all because of just wanting to, kind of something we were talking about the other day, or the other episode, was not reinventing the wheel, which in a sense they didn't. They went with the wheel and gave it a twist. Something that I loved when I was doing research is that they really focused on the youth as their audience, giving it a new and fresh style. And I remember you and I, we were at the Rockets game the other day, and we were literally drinking it. And I was like, what do you think about it? And you were like, gives like a fun taste to it. Like it's a fun Sprite, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it seemed like PepsiCo wanted to compete against himself and see which one would do better. But, you know, competing against Sprite now, it's always funny. Starry replaced Sierra Mist. So you had Sierra Mist, you had
right. I forgot about Sierra Mist.
Yeah, it's because it was replaced.
Literally. Okay. So I guess this one really can go towards business owners and letting them know how you can take a classic, or you could take one of your not so best selling products and turn it into something that becomes your best seller just by marketing and working with, because something that they were saying was that they went with a very bold marketing technique and partnering with people and influencers that align with their mission and their goal. And something that I loved about Starry marketing is how they, like, when they said they were bold. Like, they basically said, we are the best, we're better than Sprite, we're the best lemon lime flavor soda that there is out there. Here's my thing, y'all. I love me some Sprite. Sprite, literally, like, if you're gonna say what's your favorite soda, I'm gonna say Sprite, like, clearly. And I remember seeing the commercial or like ads before, and they're like, it's better than Sprite, and I was like, wait a second, who do you think you're talking about? Like, Sprite is number one. I don't know what you're talking about, saying that you're better. Like, sure, okay, we'll see. And then I tasted it, and I said, oh wow, Sprite, please don't be listening to this episode, but this was really good. And I was like, this is a different taste and a different flavor. Like, Sprite will always be a classic. Sprite will always be, in my head, number one. But Starry is a very good contender from the marketing of it, from the flavor of it. Based on, like, the marketing aspect of it, and as a business, it literally, truly aligns with what it's been saying. Like the flavor is just as good as the marketing is. Does that make sense?
I also could see this where I could come in and say this shows like how great Sprite is, because Sprite is owned by Coca-Cola. Basically, it's Coca-Cola versus Pepsi. Maybe we seeing Starry in the stadiums because they're PepsiCo owned operated companies, and then it comes into mind like, dang, is your product that good to withstand multiple attempts to beat the throne? They brought Starry, they brought 7 Up, they brought Sierra Mist, they brought 7 Up, and we
Mountain
still
Dew?
Mountain Dew, and they still can't compete with Sprite. So, is your brand,
Timeless.
are you timeless? Are you going to withstand the years? I think we talked about this last time, but you might have one good year. Like Starry been in the game for basically a year and a half. But are they going to withstand the years to come? Do they have the much momentum? Because everybody could have a good one too. But are you going to last from Sprite many years?
I like that you said that because it kind of reminds me of like the influencers now to the influencers that have been in the game for the longest, like Jackie Aina and Mr. Beast. Like they've been in the game for years. Lily Singh, Liza Koshy. Like they literally have been in the game all this time. But then you also have like young influencers like Monet McMichael or who else is there? Emma
Jordan Booker.
Jordan Booker. I mean, I feel like you still have time to be able to get to that level where you can withstand the stand of times. Does that make sense? David Dobrik. Who else is out there? Who are some like new influencers that? Addison Rae, Charlie D'Amelio. I'm trying to think of like other newer influencers. Like you have all these newer influencers. It's like, can they withstand the test of times? Can they withstand the next 10 plus years like Sprite has been able to take on every competitor brand that there is?
I think that changes started from the bottom. I don't think Star really started from the bottom. They had a whole PepsiCo company to fund their dreams and dedication. But I would say, are you willing to admit that your products failed and do it again?
Yeah. Are you consistent enough to make your dream become the reality? Because Sierra Mist came and went. Then they came back. 7 Up came and went. Now they're back with Starry to see, okay, which one will stand the test of times. Even though we've done this before, can we be the star again? Will we ever be the star?
Yeah, and he goes to Sprite. I feel like Sprite, I don't really see Sprite commercials no more. Like they like itched into history legacy. Like what's so good about their Sprite flavor? What is they marketing? How did Sprite become so good that
they don't even need to do a bunch of ads all the time? I'll see like their billboards, like some of their campaigns, like Obey the Thirst. That one, I think they kind of focus more on athletes, and I think that's something that they've done well with, is partnering with the athletes, which puts them in the stadiums, which makes you know you need Sprite and Coca-Cola products. That's so smart. That's crazy. But yeah, that's something that I've noticed as far as like with Sprite and Coca-Cola products in general. They'll have those random times where they're doing a campaign, but it's not always like in your face because they are such a timeless classic that people still to this day enjoy, whether you're in your 90s, in your 70s, or in your 20s and in your teens. Sprite is the go-to drink.
Yeah, I think they kind of market just like Nike. Like they never say buy my shoes. They're like selling a lifestyle. Like if you got our shoes, you're gonna be fly. You're gonna be active. So yeah, like Sprite is like if you drink our stuff, you're gonna be young, you're gonna be active, you're gonna be like that for real. So I agree.
So instead of this episode being titled "Started from the Bottom," we're more focused on how to brand your business or how to brand your products, how to brand yourself, more like it. You can either align with other brands and people and partnerships that can give you that elevation that you need, whether that's through grants, whether that's through investors, to be able to get you that elevation that you need to be where you want to be. Or take some of your old content, reinvent it, reformat it to where it can become something new and fresh to new people.
Yeah. I think I like that because like Pepsi's still in the game to even do that. Like people quit, you can't do that. They was like, I'm not gonna sell Pepsi no more or Sprite no more or lemon, whatever.
Lemon lime.
They not sell it anymore. They kept on selling it then. Now I wouldn't say they top of the game, but
They in the game.
they're definitely in the game when they was losing the game. So let's just go with content. Like instead of quitting, how can you rebrand yourself to get back on top, or how can you have success for many years and keep it? And what's your mission and your goals? So.
Awesome. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Quick episode, but I think it was definitely insightful, something for you to think about. Make sure you let us know how you feel about it. Subscribe. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Create to Live podcast, the podcast that helps content creators, entrepreneurs, and 9-to-5ers navigate this branding journey. We create to live and live to create.
Peace.
See y'all later. We hope that you enjoyed this episode of Create to Live podcast. Make sure you tune in every single week to our podcast we release on Mondays. Subscribe, follow us. We are on Spotify podcasts as well as Apple Podcasts and iHeartRadio podcasts. If you want to follow us on social media, my social media is bluewall.media. That's BLUWALL.media on Instagram.
You can follow me at Davon.Booker, BOOKR, whole time. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you again for tuning in to Create to Live podcast.